My name is Nicolas Nanez.
Will you spell that for me?
N Nanez, that's the last name. Nanez. And the first one is Nicolas.
How do you spell that?
Niconas, Jr.
Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in a small town by the name of Ensenada, about 38 miles from here, from Laredo.
You went to school here?
Yeah, I went to school here.
Where did you graduate from?
Well, I went, when we got out here to Laredo, I went to Central School, which is not, it doesn't exist no more. and in Christian, and I went to Martin High School. I did not graduate from Martin High School because I remember I was a sophomore and I had to quit school to help my mother for a living. And after we got even, I went back to school, and that's when the draft got me. I was a junior in Martin High.
How old were you?
I was about 19 years old. I was going to be 19 years old.
So you're drafted into the.
Yeah, he was drafted.
What was your impression? What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard you were going to be drafted?
Well, actually, it was kind of hard for me, when I got drafted because it was only my mother and me, and I had to leave her out here alone. My grandmother had already died. And one of my uncles he said, well, let's let your mother live with us out here, but she didn't want to live with nobody more. So we had a rented house, and what I did when I was out there, they used to send pension to her. But out there, when they used to pay me in Korea, there was no place to spend the money or things. So part of it I would send it to her. But she was a lady that she cared about me. I remember she used to say bubbles. And when I came back, my uncle got married to a lady from Nuevo Laredo, and they had a kid. And I told him, instead of the little kid suffering out there, he would send it to us out here, and we'd take care of her. So we got it. I got a job. I used to work with the theaters, the radio theaters. Since I started working in theaters, being an usher, taking the people to sit down on the seats. And when I went into the service, the manager told me, whenever you come back, you have your job out here. And all of a sudden, I received a letter from my boss. He said, I got your mother living with me out here. She's living with my wife, so don't worry about her.
Where did you do your basic training at after you were drafted?
We went from here, when they got out of here, we went to San Antonio. And from San Antonio, they sent us to Fort Hood, Texas, where the snakes were crawling around out there.
Snakes?
Yeah.
Eee.
We used taking the training, basic training. Out there in Fort Hood, we finished the training, and I was glad because out here in Laredo, when I was in high school, I took ROTC, and they taught me quite some things out there about the Army and everything like that. And I was glad that I had joined the ROTC out here in Martin High because the colonel we had out here, Colonel August Hine, he gave us the M1 rifle, and I used to assemble that rifle and disassemble it in 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow,
But
impressive.
when I got the training in Fort Hood, they gave us a carbine, small carbine. So I took the training that way. But when we got to Korea, or when we got to Washington, they sent us the M1, and I said, boy, this is my defense I got now. I knew everything about the M1, and so we even had guys that went into the service that they didn't even know what an M1 was. So they got me about 3 or 4 people, and I had to teach them how to use the M1 and everything, disassemble and clean it and everything. And 3 weeks being in Korea, I got my first stripe, PFC, for teaching the guys about the M1.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
exciting.
But the first scare I got in Korea was they took us to the company there.
So first though, when did you find out that you were going to Korea?
Well, actually, from I was this is a deal on that thing, man, that I remember too. When we came, we went into the camp in Fort Hood. The commander called me. He said, "I got a letter right here from your mother that you were the only son she got, and she asking if I can do something that you get out of the service." And I told him, well, it's all right with what she wants, but I'd like to serve my country. He said, well, that's what I'm going to do. You're just going to serve in the States. You're not going overseas. But at the time the list came out, I was the second one on the list to go to Korea.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So definitely not
So
as you
and
were
I didn't
told.
say anything until we were almost in Washington, and there's an officer said, "You're not supposed to be here." I told him, "Don't say anything, but I'd like to serve my country the way they have served me." And the way I hear about this country we're going to, people are suffering out there. And I said to myself, I will be willing to help these people out there, but the way that my family have treated me. So that's why I went out there to Korea.
Did you know? And so you knew there was a war going on. Did you know there was one prior to you being drafted?
What?
Did you know there was a war going on
Yes,
prior to
ma'am,
you being
I
drafted?
did, yeah. I knew there was something going on.
And when were you drafted again?
On March the 22nd, 1952. I mean 51, I'm sorry, 51.
Okay. So had you ever heard of Korea before this?
No, I hadn't been there.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to serve there, serve the people, and give them the right that they have right now.
Well, I'm sure I know for a fact that they thank you guys for what y'all did over there, so, and I thank you as well. So whenever you went to Korea, did you go by ship or did you fly?
No, we went by ship.
You went by ship? How many days did it take you to get there?
It took about 10 days to get out there.
And where did you land?
Well, we landed in the Chorwon area. First, when we got to Korea, we went to Seoul. And then they shipped us out to the field. From there on, I didn't know anything about towns or anything. It was just plain on the field, that's all.
And while you're in Korea, were you still a PFC at this time?
The PPSC, I got it when I got to Korea.
Right. Oh, you got it right when you got to Korea?
Yeah,
Okay.
for teaching the guys how to use the M1.
So that was your specialty and your rank while in
Yeah.
Korea? Okay.
Yeah, and then later on I made corporal, but it was kind of late.
How much were you making as a PFC?
How much what?
How much money were you making as a
Well,
PFC?
it was $100 and something for a month.
And you were and most of that was being sent back home to your mother.
And the government would send my mother about $230. And it was like I said, from the money I got out of there, I would send half to my mother. Because there was one thing that I always remember about the kids. I don't want anything to come like what happened in Korea to our states. I will see kids, on the camps we used to the leftover,
Mm-hmm.
kids would go out there and eat it from what it was out there. And what I used to do, I used to buy, they used to send it like a small grocery or something that said weenies and some cans like that. With the money I had left, I would buy them. And the food that I used to get, I would get one of the kids to eat what they had served us.
Mm-hmm.
And I would eat some weenies or something like that with breakfast.
Yeah.
Because I remember I suffered a lot when I was a small kid.
So tell me a little bit more about your duty, what your responsibility was while in Korea.
Well, in Korea, I was an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
a combat engineer. We used to build bridges and culverts so the infantry could go by. And every time that we used to move, we didn't get a mine sweeper, so they got me to put mines after we have set it down, put mines around the area or the company, so the enemy won't come in.
Mm-hmm. And if they did, you'd hear.
And that's what I was afraid of, because usually on the cold days, we used to go to work, and I would see one of my fellows out there that I tell him, you don't move. He said, what's wrong with you? I said, well, you don't move. I don't want to scare you, but let me work it out, see how I can get you out of there, because he was standing on the mine out there. And I used to get somebody else and said, we're going to push him, we're going to get him up, and I need some help, because I don't want him to put some weight on the mine.
Right.
See, and we got 2 or 3 they thanked me for saving their life.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
We used to get up in the morning, go to breakfast, and then go to the field and do our job. We used to build bridges and everything. And one thing is that I didn't fight out there. I didn't fight on the front lines, but I was under enemy fire every day. We were working, and here comes the artillery or mortars and everything like that. And usually, it would take a day to do just a hole, because they won't let us work out there.
Mm-hmm.
We were working, and all of a sudden here comes the mortars or the artillery, and we had to hide.
So your job was pretty dangerous then.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about some dangerous or difficult situations that you encountered,
Well,
besides rescuing people from the mines.
yeah, well, actually, when we were working on the field, and as I tell you, all those artillery coming in, it was kind of, I mean, I was afraid, period. All I would think about our Mary Mother, from Mexico, we got La Virgen de Guadalupe. It's a saint. I would just say, just try to help me leave and go back to my world. And I did. When I came in, I just went straight to Mexico City to visit the saint. I gave him everything that I had, decorations and everything. I didn't want anything. Yeah, and it was kind of hard in Korea. I mean, with the weather, the winter, and on the winter, the snow would come out almost to the knee. And on the rainy season, we used to get up to build our bunkers on top of the hill, because if it was plain back there, the water won't let you walk.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So how many people would be in a bunker?
We got by 8 or 12, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And at night, we used to live in tents because we were but 2 or 3 blocks from the line, from the front line. We used to live in tents, and one man per night. We had some stoves, and we had to send the gas, put some new gas on the stove, so you had so we wouldn't get frozen. At the time, when I got out there, they still did not know anything about the cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
We had some people that got frostbite.
Were you ever wounded, or
Huh?
were you ever wounded or injured?
No.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever encounter any sort of combat or
No,
situations?
I never fought anything on the line, but
Mm-hmm.
I was under fire every day.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I remember about my friend, uh, we came back from the line, and we were training, came back to training, and the sergeant, my sergeant, he got, as I tell you, we used to work in the mines. He was teaching how to unassemble the mine,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them blew off his two fingers out here. So I had to take over the squad.
How many people were in the squad?
They were 12.
12. So, what was your impression of Korea at this time? Like, what?
At that time, all that I felt it was poor people out here. I mean, but we were on the boat. We were just joking, this and that and everything. When the boat put us on those small boats where they land you on the ground, I saw those planes out there, those jets going. I said, "Whoa, this thing is something real out here." And I remember at night, the infantry used to have a big light to where they could bomb out there. And every day at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, here comes the lady on the loudspeaker. "Soldier, you're suffering out there. Why do you come to us? We got some good food. We got everything out here and everything." And until one day I told one of my friends out there, they ought to cut the tongue of that lady so she can not talk too much. I mean, some people would try to go there. I mean, they got the expression that she was saying the right thing and everything like that. And I told them, just hold yourself. Don't get excited about it. Anyway, if you go back to your state, we'll see some women there.
So, were you able to keep in contact with your mother pretty
Yes.
easily through letters or phone calls or anything?
No, we used to write a letter to her, and so she wouldn't keep on thinking about what was going on. I used to write letters. Like one day I did one, another day I did, and the other day every 3 days I used to write a letter and send it to her because I had time at night, you know. And every week she would get 2 or 3 letters.
Oh.
Not like today. I mean, today you can get in touch with your family and everything. But at that time we didn't get no communication like this.
How are your relationships with the other troops?
Was it what?
How are your relationships with the other troops or foreign troops like ROCs, Korean soldiers?
Well, actually, it was all right. The relationship we used to get along. I remember my division there was three regiments, the 15th, the 7th, and I don't remember the other one. And I was on the 15th regiment, and one night they sent me to with an officer to the 7th regiment. This is with the Puerto Ricans, so I could speak Spanish. They sent me as an interpreter there.
Mm-hmm.
We make out what we were going to do and everything. And the next morning, they let me stay on the observation post. And I saw the 15th regiment. They had been hit at night just because of one guard. He went to sleep. And a lot of people died at that time there. And I said to myself, poor guys, all what I think of was their family, the way they would react. And I remember one day I was standing guard, and I thanked this guy, this poor guy, because I don't remember his name. I was coming off from the guard duty, and he was coming to relieve me. And here comes the North Korean with the hands up. Help, help, help. And this guy called and said, Nico, hit the ground. As soon as I hit the ground, that Korean went like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had something in his back. Boom! 3 or 4 shots came and hit. I'm glad I met that guy. I remember, God, you saved my life with this guy telling me what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that the Koreans to. He hit his bullet on the back. As soon as he got banned, that thing went off.
But he was screaming help though?
Huh?
The North Korean was
Yeah,
screaming
North
help?
Korea, yeah. He was the one that was, he said he needed help, but
It was just a trap?
it was a trap.
Yeah.
He was trying to.
So tell me a little bit more about your responsibility. You said that you were in charge, you're a combat engineer, and you had to build bridges and lay mines out. Was building bridges difficult? Was it dangerous?
Yeah, well, it was kind of dangerous, I mean, with the mines, because if you need something, I mean, it would go off and you would lose your life out there.
Right.
Yeah, and I used to, at night, I'm going to tell you the way I was. I did pray at night. Pray, God help me. Tomorrow, we don't know what's coming up. But try and help, not me only, but all my fellows out here in the company. And guys would make fun of me. They said, you Catholic guys just think about God. I don't know, the religion was something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought about the God out there. And I thank my mother for, I mean, taking care of me the way she did. When I went into the service, I'm going to tell you, I did cry because I was leaving her out here by herself.
Right.
And I don't know, I said, I don't know what's going to happen to her out here, and I won't be able to come or anything. But God help us, and we save our lives. And we here in the country that needed the help out there. I'm proud to have served the people out there and don't and let the communists don't get into that country.
Would you say that basic training prepared you for what you would encounter in Korea?
No, I mean, they just, it was in a hurry, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first drafted from Laredo at that time. And it was about 6 weeks training.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put me working in the warehouse, they served the food. See, they knew I knew something about math. I had to work it out. Since so many dozens of eggs to this outfit and some to the other one like that, they put me in charge of the warehouse. And the people out there that were working with me, when I left the warehouse, they said, we don't want you to leave because there's nobody else out here that treat us like you do. On Saturdays, they said make it Friday night. I used to tell them, get some barrels and for 5 gallons and do some lemonade because on Monday we come in, some of you people would not like to work out here. We used to leave the lemonade out there on the refrigerator and on Monday when we came, everybody was taking care of it, with they peanut, drinking beer and things like that.
That's quite all right. So have you been back to Korea?
What?
Have you been back to Korea?
No, I haven't.
Mm-hmm. So how long were you actually in Korea?
It was it was a year, a month, and 1 day.
1 year, 1 month, and 1 day.
Yes. See, actually, at that time, we used to go by points.
Right.
They used to give you four points for a month. But when my time was to come out here to the States, they said, we haven't got nobody to replace you. So I had to wait a year. And my time to have been serving there was to be 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
But since they couldn't find no replacement, I had to serve the rest.
So whenever you finally got the word that you were able to go home,
Yes.
what was that feeling?
That was one of my happiest days. I remember Sergeant Martinez was my first sergeant. He said, you only got about 2 months or a month to go, so I'm going to take you off from the line and I'm going to leave you out here with the Korean people to work making the camouflage nets.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I used to get scared because, they would start talking and like this. And I said, oh, they're going to have a fight out here or something. So I used to get my M1 ready. And all of a sudden they would go, ha 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 ha.
So what do you think is the legacy of Korean War veterans? What is the legacy of Korean War veterans? Like, what is remembered? What is it that they carry with them from the Korean War, or even the legacy of the Korean War?
Well, actually, we got an organization out here. When we get together, we started. One thing I got from them, I get out of the conversation because they start talking about Korean, and I said, I better get out of here because there's a war going on out here. They said, I did this and I did this, and I told them I don't like to remember things, bad things. I mean.
Right. Did you talk about your experience after you returned home?
Yeah,
You talked to your mom about it, what you had gone through?
Yeah, I talked to my uncles and everything, what had happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's like my daughters right now, they back me up with anything that's got to do with the government meetings and everything. Say, go there and see what, find out, so you can remember your days. I don't want to remember anything about it.
Yeah.
When I came back out here, people didn't know anything about the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day we went to Jarvis Plaza and we were sitting down out there. He said, where have you been? We haven't seen you for a long time. I told him I was in Korea. Where's that? What happened out there? I told him, well, there's a war going on.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we didn't know anything about it. And when we came back to the States, we never got recognized. I mean, nobody knew anything about us or anything. But today, But today, every time Vietnam comes home, we, our organization, go and receive him, give him a welcome home and everything like that.
Right.
But at the time, most people didn't know what was going on.
Well, and technically, we're still in a war. When the armistice was signed, it was just a ceasefire. What do you think, in your opinion, we need to do to put a closure on it?
Well, actually, since that, it's been going on for a long time, I don't know, I mean, in my opinion, I think that these people in North Korea, they're just bluffing. That's what they're doing. And trying to make things long and long and long.
Right. Would you support a reunification of North and South Korea if it were possible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And do you think it's important for younger generations to know the sacrifices that were made in Korea?
Oh, yes, ma'am. But we got a lot of people that, especially the infantrymen, they went through a lot of sacrifices out there and everything.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's so important for them to understand and to know?
No.
Why do you think it's important?
Why is it important?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's important because we were out there in a place that we didn't knew anything. And we got something different from what we had out here, man.
Mm-hmm.
We learned something different from different people and everything like that.
Well, sir, is there anything else that you would like to share that kind of concludes the questions that I have for you?
And one thing I got about the Korean people, I sure appreciate them. Everything, whenever they see me, they come and start looking, thanks a lot for saving our country. I told them, but they're doing the job.
Yeah. They are very humble people.
Yeah.
Very grateful.
And like this Korean Baptist church out here, we got, every year they give us one supper. And he invited us and they treated us out there, but we were the family.